So first of all, thank you so much for your hospitality for me at this meeting. It's been a great experience as a guest, so thanks. I much appreciate it. I wanted to raise a very specific question, and that is, what can you individually, or perhaps the change leaders as a group, do to greatly enhance our ability to develop a large system change, complex change, knowledge, action, and capacity, and do this without becoming more overworked? So there's four assumptions I have behind this particular question. One of the assumptions is that something can be done to enhance large system change, knowledge, and capacity. Something that you will probably have to change something about your life and the way you're working if you're going to do something, because we don't want you just overworked and adding it on top of other things. A third thing is that it will take some sort of exploration collectively if you want to do something collectively. And the fourth one is that you actually are interested in doing something about complex large system change, building capacity. So I recognize there's those four assumptions behind it. This question has arisen for me out of about 30 years of work, where the major question that's driven my work has been about how can I help realize our highest aspirations. And that particular question I've been addressing a lot more intensely over the last 5 years or so, without doing more work, though, I would say. Living a good life still, nevertheless. But the question has arisen for me over the last 5 years because of my increasing conviction that we're facing an epochal scale of change in our world, and an increasing conviction that we actually can do, I know something about what to do about it, in what direction to move. And this conviction has arisen out of a lot of experiences. So I have a friend in Australia, and she's working for the Australian Ministry of the Environment, and this is maybe a dozen years ago. And in the ministry, there was this common chatter about how terrible China was because China's continually building coal-fired electricity-generating plants. And people were always making these snide marks about the Chinese. And then they had a big meeting one day, and somebody made this snide mark again. And then somebody stood up and said, "But it's our coal they're burning." And there was palpable silence in the room for a couple of minutes. And then people just started talking like the comment had never been made. The paradox was so great that they didn't even know how to have a conversation about it. It was simply dealt with through denial, and that didn't really happen, and we aren't really going to pay attention to it. I have a friend in the Bay Area. She's very close to her family. She's late 30s. She works a lot in consulting, just like all of us. And her family has told her that they would rather that she not speak at the family dinners because they find so distressing what she says. So she was at one family dinner, and she was, her brother was remarking that he was wondering, how long will it take us to get to 1 billion people? And she sort of smirked and grunted, and her father said, "Okay, tell us what you're really thinking." And she said, "I think we're going to collapse to 1 billion a lot sooner than we're going to get to 10 billion. I was asked to speak to the Pioneers. It's a group in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco area, that meets every year. And they have ongoing events, but there's about 3,000 people that come together in the Bay Area. And they asked me to come and speak about global action networks. And they were interested in global action networks because the theme of the meeting was, how do we build the resilient communities with the network connections that will allow us to handle the scale of collapse of our civilization as we know it, that we all believe is coming. So these are some of the questions that I've been asking myself in my own life. And I like to think there's something I can do about it because I like to think I know something about large system change. I say I do anyways, and I probably know as much as any, but maybe a dozen other people in the world about the whole concept of large system change. But I don't know enough, right? And it's partly the fact I'm facing is that the knowledge does not exist. And so part of the question is also that even that knowledge that does exist is only being applied very weakly. We can do a lot better even with what we've actually got. So this is the exploration I've been playing in my life and has been driving me. And one of the groups that I've found out of this sort of concern is called Emerging Potential, an initiative to address complex challenges at scale. And there's 9 people that have come together to form this group. They're very impressive people with their very impressive institutions. They know a lot about large system change. But, there's only 9 of us. And I'm not quite sure where it's going. We've met once in London. We've met a couple of other times here in Europe. We're meeting again in the UK in November. And so we all know that if we're dealing with something about complexity, which this is a complex situation if there ever was one, we should have more than one strategy. So as a second strategy, what I've been doing recently is investigating something called the impact hubs. And it's a very interesting network that was founded in about 2005 in London. It's grown over that very short period of time to be about 70 hubs, as they call them, and they're city-based, truly around the world, Africa, Asia, North America, Europe. And there's going to be another 20 that are going to be founded over the next year or so. And when I originally met them, I met them through a virtual program I was giving, and there were a couple of students in the program who were from Impact Hubs, and they were about social enterprise. That's the way they described it. And I have, marginal interest in social enterprise as a large system change strategy because I don't see it as being very impactful. But when I talked to them more closely, I started to understand they're about something much more profound and that they are about large system change. But we don't even have the language. They didn't even have the language for our large system change. So they were using social enterprise. And indeed, they are doing social enterprise as it's written narrowly, but the real interest is something much bigger. Now, they met in Romania in June, and they met as a network, a global network. And somebody had made them aware of the work that I've been doing around global action networks. But more importantly, they had Otto Scharmer there at their meeting. And Otto, as you probably know, with Theory U and Large System Change, MIT, et cetera, he's founded the Presencing Institute. Together, they left that meeting with a commitment to start a MOOC, a mass online program that people can around the world participate in. And that started a couple of weeks ago, and I participated in it, and because I'd like to know more about how this all works and what that, it's another exploration in my multiple strategies. And out of that, they are joining together 43 of the 70 hubs to do local experiments and to build their capacity to be able to approach change from the depth that Otto approaches change. So out of this, part of what I think needs to be done is that we need to develop, as the pioneers were talking about, a network that is highly robust, that is locally based and can take action at a local level, but has a global consciousness and can actually shift things globally and is focused upon development of large system, complex change, knowledge, capacity, and action. So that's what my own adventure is right now, is exploring this in these different ways. And it seems to me, I've been very impressed with the people here, and we've all come from somewhat privileged backgrounds, what we're doing in terms of the resources and the abilities that we've had. And so I'd just like to put out the the proposal to you that when you're thinking about what you might do, either individually or as a group, that you consider this need in the world, and that you really have unusual gifts and knowledge and abilities that are badly needed, and we really need to scale them up in the world now. And so I'd just like to invite you to join with others in sharing your skills and developing this all further. Thank you.